Child, something's wrong. It's me. I'm the something wrong. But I'm still right in the eyes of my child. Woman evolved. It is that time of the week. First of all, can I just say this? Podcast's supposed to be over. Podcast's supposed to be 10 seasons. Sis is still here. Why? I don't know. I don't know if I like y'all, if y'all like me. I don't even know what's going on. If this is your first time listening, we miss you. Yes, how do we miss you? But this is your first time. It's weird, but this is what happens. We love you here, okay? And I miss you. Thank you for tuning in. And this is the Woman Evolve podcast, and I am your host, Sarah Jakes Roberts, but I am not your only host. I am being joined with my girls from literally all over the world. We international in this thing, all right? Letitia said, hey, child. When I say we are tuning in from all over the world, I see Saginaw, Michigan. I see Destin, Florida. Jessica is here from Connecticut, okay? D. Moore says, stay, sis, stay, not over. Say what? Is that because listen, okay. Brianna Hammond says sis took the braids out and popped out for episode. Let me tell you something. She did take the braids out and she did put her wig on. And I just want you all to, I want to thank everyone who was praying that I would still have edges after the braids. I just want you to know that God is faithful, that he heard your prayers, that I took them out and all of my edges remains intact. Thank you, God, for what you're doing in this season, because we don't know from time to time when we go into protective styles that pull on the edges what's going to happen. But God, I thank you because you're still in the blessing business. I posted a video on my social media about making your own headlines. And I want to say once and again, God, I thank you because my new headline is that I still got my edges. Okay, how about that? Nellie says, the hair is cute, child. Mine is rained out. That's all right. That's all right. That ain't no problem. That ain't no problem. Okay, so D-More. Oh, you're talking about the podcast being over. I know it's supposed to be over, yet here I am. Okay, so here's the thing. Woman Dissolve. Okay, if you're just listening, you haven't been listening, you don't know what's happening, we forgive you. Let me catch you up real quick. You know, the podcast is called Woman Evolve. Everything we do is evolving into the best version of ourselves. But because Corona, okay, and life in 2020 has put us in some compromising positions. We've eaten snacks, okay? We've eaten carbs, we've eaten snacks. And so for a temporary season, Woman Dissolve is also like a sister ministry to Woman Evolve, because sometimes you got to dissolve to evolve. You see what I'm saying? And so I just want to give you all an update on Woman Dissolve. I haven't lost 1 pound. Come on, Holy Ghost. I 191. That's here we are. I'm sharing how much I weigh because 2020 has left me with nothing but truth. It ain't no point in even pretending. Okay, so I'm 191. When we first started dissolving, I was 196. We ain't been dissolving but what, 2 weeks? All right, first week lost 5 pounds, second week didn't lose nothing. Okay, I'm holding on to 191 and I get on the scale every day. And before y'all even start DMing me about don't get on the scale and don't listen to the scale, whoopie whoopie whoop, I don't really want to hear that. Okay, I'm getting on the scale because I want to see the number change. Anywho, I'm holding on to 191 the way Rose held on to that board in the middle of the ocean after the Titanic sunk. I'm holding on to 191 the way we held on to micro braids in the 90s. I'm holding on to 191 the way the ancestors held on to God's unchanging hand in the middle of slavery. I have not moved from 191 pounds. Now, I'm still eating right. Fancy me that. I'm still eating right. I'm still working out. Ain't lost the pound. And I already know what y'all finna tell me, because I done all of the Googles because I needed to understand. Yes, muscle weighs more than fat. Yes, I'm toning up. Yes, I can see the difference in my clothes. Yes, I know that that's all that matters to you. But what I'm telling you is that if I don't move from 191, I'm going to be Megan Thee Stallion's like long lost sister, twin sister she didn't even know existed. 191, everything is so thick around me. And I just want it to be less thick, okay? From the everything is just, and it ain't what it's supposed to be, okay? He says, are we drinking our water, Sarah. I'm what they tell me gonna happen. They told me it's gonna be stuck for a minute and then boom, it's just gonna be just melt. And I'm gonna be here until I get to that melting stage. But I just want you to know that it's we 191 around here. Okay. So here we go. 191. And that's all right. Because I'm embracing at this point that I'm just like gonna be in this thing. You know what I told myself though? This is what I told myself. Okay. I said, you may have not lost, but how much did you keep yourself from gaining? Because I'm a very logical person. I have to work things out in my head. And I said to myself, I may not have lost any weight, but how much weight did I keep myself from gaining? And I'm just resting in that right now. That's all I got. Raquel says thick is beautiful. And I agree with you. I love it. It's just my closet. I'm at a point. See, this is what happened. Listen, okay, so I'm at a point right now where it's like you either gonna do something about this or you're gonna have to invest in new clothes. And when I say new clothes, I mean leggings included. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't have to invest in new clothes. You just gotta wear leggings all the time. I'm at capacity with my leggings, and thick is beautiful. I love it. It's just I'm either going to spend money buying new clothes or I'm gonna have to eat these vegetables and see what the end gonna be. How about that? Lakeisha says, "Child, you sound like her." Well, she is my sister. That happens all of the time. Mariah says that try the scale in another spot. Maybe the floor is uneven. Mariah, when I tell you, this is why I fool with the delegation. I don't know where you go to church. I don't know what ministry you are part of, but let me tell you, mind your business ministry. This is why I fool. Let me find out the scale is uneven. I'm probably 125. I'm probably about 125. That's probably what it is. I think that's what it is. I'm probably about 125. Okay. How about that? Artoria says, I'm at 164. But you have a sad face at that. Are you like 4'5" at 164? Because you have a sad face at 164. I would have a happy face. They would call me a happy meal at 164 instead of this soup. You know what I mean? I'm somewhere else. How about that? No, bring it down. All right. Justice Clemens is laughing at me. That's all right. Anika says, yes, the scale is wrong. It must be wrong. Tier says that floor is definitely uneven. Let me tell you something. Can I tell you something before I start the podcast like the way I'm supposed to start it? I'm 191 ain't moved off my scale, right? And then so my husband, who has not been working out, well, he gets on the row machine probably 3 to 4 times a week, so he has been working out. He gave up red meat during Rosh Hashanah, and he's continuing to not eat red meat. But he hasn't been like he would tell you, like he gets in the gym sometimes and he goes ham. He hasn't been doing that. He's just been doing the row machine, and so he gets on that. I went on and told him how much I weighed. You know what I mean? In case something happened and he got to lift me up out of here. I just want him to know you might want to lift with your knees because it ain't what it used to be. You know what I mean? When we first met, she was 145 and you could just throw over your shoulders. Something happened to me, I passed out. You want to lift with your knees, okay? We can't both go to the hospital. So I went on and told him, your girl about 196, okay? And then I told him I lost 5 pounds. She about 191 right now, right? And he goes, I don't know what I am. I ain't been, and I've been and we've been. And so I don't know what I need to get on scale. He going to get on scale. He's lower than what he thought he was going to be. He's significantly lower. He's like, my goal is to be about right. I ain't going to tell his business because he ain't give me permission to do that. But he going to tell me, I don't even know where I am. And he going to get on there. And then he like, oh, listen, let me tell you, this is what I'm going to tell you about his weight compared to my weight. We cousins, close cousins, kissing cousins. If I eat one more thing, I'm going to weigh more than my man. And that's fine if my closet would adjust to that truth. So that's it. Pia says, I take my wig off. You'll be surprised how much it weighs. You'll be 188 before you know. Let me tell you another thing. Delegation. I thought, okay, because I've been 191. Is this why I took my braids out? This is why I took my braids out. I said, these little braids with this hair sticking out, it's got to be at least 8 pounds. So I took my braids out, and I thought that was gonna get me. I just want to be 189. I don't even want to be 180. I just want to be 189. I took my braids out, and I thought this is probably gonna make a difference on the scale. When I tell you, them braids was lightweight. Them braids was pretty lightweight because nothing happened. So I took it. I'm not, my hair is probably a little past my shoulders. Okay. So I said, Lord, let me get bald headed and just get bald headed. And head, my shoulder length hair without all this extra hair on my head, and she's still 191. She's 191 in season. She's 191 out of season. And amen again. Okay. Shane says maybe it's that you have muscles now. It weighs more than fat. That's what they like to tell me. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Thighs toning up, stomach toning up. I'm not saying the muscle's not there. I'm just saying that if I'm gonna be muscular at 191, I can accept that. It's just if I'm gonna be muscular at 191, I need my closet to do all right. Okay. Caramel Butterfly 31 says that's the same with me and my hubby, kissing cousins, but he likes the extra weight. 4 kids, late, 10 extra pounds for each. Let me tell you something. My husband don't have no problem with how much I weigh. I'm just the only one like me. These clothes, this weight, it's all a thing. Okay, how about that? Kai says somebody in the room laughing. They always talk about hearing Shanice laughing. I don't know what that is. They just hear you snickering. I don't know what that is. Dominique says, I did the same thing, took my braids out and didn't lose nothing. How is it possible that I have all this hair on my head and when I take it out, I still weigh the same? Somebody's lying. We ought to sue these hair companies telling us we got 3-4 ounces of hair and my scale is telling me that these ounces ain't changed. How about that? Teresa says, you know that PMS may be weigh yourself a different time of month. When I tell you Sarah has been weighing herself, I promise. Whatever. Next week, we'll see what happens. It still might be woman dissolved. It might be woman stagnate. The good thing is that I'm just saying to myself, at least you didn't gain any weight. Okay? At least you didn't gain any weight. And that's what I got today. Naturally Gifted said, all who are weighing conscious knew to weigh on you all birthday, weigh in your all birthday suits. Okay, she said weigh in your birthday suits. Let me tell you something. I'm also weighing in my birthday suit. I don't have time for cotton and what I'm telling you, it's not straight up. Okay, I took my eyelashes off. I don't want no extra weight, and it's 191. So here we are. Okay. How about that? Jaleesa says, child, I done invested into a whole new clothes. These pounds says, sis, you well into your 30s. Now we're here to stay. I said, is it my metabolism? Did my metabolism retire at 30? Obviously it did a little bit, you know what I mean? Or maybe a lot of that. I don't know what's happening. First of all, but this is what I told myself, and then I'm going to shut up and we're going to get to these stories, and that's it, okay? This is what I'm going to say. I told myself in 2013, when I first started, when I lost 40 pounds and I put up that picture and I looked hungry. When I first lost that weight in 2013, I was working out for months and months and months upon end. Okay. I got married. I moved to Los Angeles. I had happy weight. I had a baby. I started traveling. I have not consistently worked out and eaten well since 2013, like beyond like maybe a week here or 2 weeks there. Right. And I used to say, well, it's just because I travel. And every time I get to a hotel, it feels like I'm on vacation, so I order French fries. Or it's hard to make the right decision when you're at hotels all the time. Well, sis ain't been in no hotels, okay? And the trauma of 2020 has settled in. This is it. It's going to be traumatic. So I don't even have stress eating anymore. So I told myself, you have literally no excuse to not take care of yourself, okay? To not eat well, to not make sure your heart is strong, and to work out and be strong. You literally have no excuse. So at this point, if I'm going to be 191, I'm at least going to be a healthy 191. Okay. I would like to lose weight. We'll see what happens, but I don't have any other excuse. So another part of me is like, give up and do what? What, you gonna just go up and eat all the snacks and then just sit down and not do nothing? So like, I've kind of mentally gotten to the place where I'm like, you know what? You 191, right? Right. That's your truth. You gotta accept that you 191, but also you don't have no reason to not get up and make sure your heart is strong, even at 191, to not eat this salad at 191. You have no reason to be sitting up eating Chick-fil-A every single day at this point. You're grown. You got to eat like an adult. And so this is what I've settled into. I'm still going to step on that scale every day. And I can't even, maybe in a few weeks, I'll be off the scale. And I'll say to myself, I just eat healthy, and healthy is my way of life. But as for me in my house right now, in this moment, I'm stepping on the scale every day until I see change. In my mind or on the scale. How about that? Baltimore is in the building. Hey, Nancy Adams. Giovanni says, shout out from DC. Okay. Debbie says, we don't have to accept 191. The devil's a lie. And Artori says, but 191, where those sis? It's here. It's all. Don't let this shirt fool you, though. It ain't like that, though. All right. But listen, here she go. Here she go. All right. Ashley says, I had hummus and cucumbers earlier. God was pleased. That's what I'm saying. Just make the right decisions. Ruthie says, can we just not evolve or dissolve and just woman maintain? Dissolving be stressful, sis. Yes, bro. Well, right now, I'm obviously woman maintain anyway. So that's where we are. All right, listen. Rescue Eve. I have about 18 stories. I have about 1,800 stories to share with you for Rescue Eve. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get all the way through all of these stories, but I ain't gonna lie to you. I got about 18 of them. And so we just gonna do what needs to be done, okay? Tiffany says, you must be tall. I don't see a 191. Let me tell you where most of the 191 is. It's trailing behind me and sitting on these thighs. She's sturdy, like the Lord has made me sturdy. Amen. All right. It's all here in my legs and everything else. Amen. Cache says, what's your weight goal? Okay, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you my weight goals, and then I'm going to move on, okay? I would love to be 170. 170 would be amazing. That's where I want it. 160, I think y'all would start checking on me. But I think 170, maybe 165. But currently, that's my long-term weight goals. Right now, my weight goal is 189. And when that happens, we'll be there, okay? All right, so here, I got about 18 stories, like I said. Where do we even begin? Let's see. Let's start with a story that I just saw yesterday. I'm interested to see what the delegation thinks about this. Over the summer, we weren't in podcast season when this occurred, but Naya Rivera was in an accidental drowning with her son in July. This happened. They were out in the lake here, actually in California, and she literally saved her son before not being able to get on the boat herself. In the aftermath of that, there has been pictures surfacing of her sister, Michaela, and the father of her child, Ryan Dorsey, who have moved in together to help raise the child. Recently, the sister put out a statement, and the statement said, in the darkest time of my life, the only thing that is important is my friends and family, she wrote on her Instagram. Showing up for my nephew, even though I can't show up for myself. So she was referencing these headlines that kind of surfaced on Monday, and she said that she's not concerned with the way things look because no one can see each agonizing moment we all endure. She continues and says, what matters most is I've learned is to show compassion, not to judge others, and never to take a moment of life for granted. I hope you all do the same. You know, I just said to myself, I've never been there, so I don't know. You know, I've never been there, so I don't know. I think it's so easy to say at first glance, like whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, like couldn't be me. I can't imagine it for me, but once again, I would be imagining because I've never been there. And I think that who we are in moments of grief could shock all of us. And I just think we should rescue them. It was traumatic, unexpected. It wasn't ideal. And so I don't know. What do you all say about that? What do you all think about this? Can we rescue? Yo Yada says, not too close for comfort. Is there someone who perhaps, Nakia says, I understand them being there for the son, but why live together? Because, I don't know. Shamika says we shouldn't judge her. Kai Shell says people are going through things. Ruthie says, no. And Melina says, Naya is not here to defend this situation. Yeah, Deidre says, no, not even a flood. I feel like This is what I think. Okay, Stephanie says, I don't think it's anything inappropriate. People just want to be messy. You know, like the son is going to need a female representative in his life. Is still very fresh. They were co-parenting at the time. And it just seems like in order, maybe it's just to get over a hump. But this is not unusual though. I just have you all know that sometimes people end up with the sibling of a deceased spouse because there's a connection that happens after that. Mhm. Renee says it may be cost effective to reside together for the time being. Jessica says, nah, this suspect. Alicia says, nah, you don't need to move together. The temptation is real. Sherelle says, low key, I'm not mature for this rescue. I just think that we could possibly, I don't know. Crystal says, ask for 500 Alex. Just so you all know, that is not an acceptable rescuing response because we pretty much know absolutely not. Renee says rescue. I'm sending them all the rescue they can get because it takes a village to raise a child. I think we Katanya says I think we should mind our business and pray for them. That too is also an option. We can also just say, you know what? Let's just mind our business. This don't have nothing to do with us. Makia says not in the African American culture. She said it's the ancestors would never, this can't even happen. Julissa says, I mean, I can't say I disagree. I mean, if they think it will help the child, he's young, they're young. It's a tragic situation. Everyone's picking up the pieces. Like death is so traumatic, even when you like know it's coming when a person is ill. But to have like this unexpected accident and this little boy who's so young, asking for his mom, asking for family, like grief is really, it can be really challenging. And when you're looking for something that can heal your pain or something that can at least make you feel better for a moment, sometimes you do end up in relationship with people who seem like a good idea. Now, first of all, delegation, don't act like y'all ain't never had no tough time and call somebody y'all know y'all didn't have no business talking to let him know about your tough time so that you can see if he would console you. And some of y'all lying right now. Some of y'all that made up a tough time. Don't make me take you back to when you made up a tough time. Oh, I was in a car accident. It was terrible. You ain't had nothing but a little fender bender. You didn't have nothing but a little bumper to bumper accident. But y'all done called somebody to see if they could be there in your time of need. I'm just wondering, is that possible? I mean, is it, you know what I mean? But Tanisha says, let's stay in the mind my business ministry. All right. So no, Nelly says moving in together is a bit too much, but the kid is benefiting. Let's rescue. Bridget says rescue her, but they need to move around in 2021. No. Jessica says, Sarah, that's not the same. It's not the same? Okay. Jaleesa says, wait, did they confirm they were together? They did not deny it. You know what I mean? They didn't deny it because sometimes when we ain't deny it. You know what I mean? B. Jones says rescue her. She just wants to show up for her nephew and being there, maybe helping her get through the grieving process. I would do the same for my sister in a heartbeat. Probably has nothing to do with the kid's father. That's, to create a village. How about that? Dear says, I'm rescuing because I know what grief can do. Send the boat. But when they get in, I'm not talking because it ain't my business. So we can send a boat. We can send a boat. I like the boat. Stephanie says, if I died, I would want my sister to move in and help my husband take care of my girls. He's going to be a wreck and my girls would need her constantly. Stephanie, you're so mature. Steph, that's what I'm saying. If I died, my sister, it ain't no way. It ain't no way my sister. Well, but my sister got a whole husband and kids. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine it. I just can't imagine it. But I will tell you one thing. If anybody moved in, if something happened to me and Shanice moved in, I don't think, and then there's rumors started circulating. This is what I would say. I do think that someone would speak out and be like, absolutely not. I'm doing this for my girl and for my girl only, and it ain't what it looked like. I think that the fact that it was no actual denial means that we open to anything that could be happening. And is that wrong? I don't know if that's wrong. I don't know if that's wrong because once again, grief will have you out here doing anything. Halima says, I can't. Hey, girl. Divine says they don't got to live together to take care of him. Okay, so but can we consider a rescue? I like the boat idea. I do like the boat idea. Katanya says send the boat. Brisha says rescue for all right. Cache says did she have a will? If so, what does it? Cache, we don't know. Okay. Julie said okay. All right. That's a good point. I'm not gonna read that only because you write, but you write when you write. Okay. Okay. So let's rescue. Let's rescue. I do want y'all to know though, FYI, if something ever happened to me, you know how y'all mature enough and y'all be saying stuff to y'all spouses like, I want you to go on and find love again. I don't know if I feel that way. Like, I pretty much I want you to buy a plot right next to mine and wait until your day comes. If this what I'm gonna do for this what I'm doing for Christmas. I'm gonna buy us plots beside each other just to ensure if anything happened to me, he can't go nowhere else. He gonna have to be right here sitting next to me. How about that? Huh? Is that all right? I think it's something to that. I don't. You're you can marry him all you want to, but when the time comes, you gonna be sitting right here next to me because he ain't gonna waste my money. He's gonna be sitting. You tried it, you won't.
Just let them know. Mm-mm. I'm kidding. Maybe I'll mature and be different. Maybe I'll be different, but but as for right now, maybe at the same time I stop stepping on the scale, I'll also change how I feel about this right now. But I want you to remember me. I want pictures up in the house of me. Don't take my pictures down. I remember what we've had. I want it everywhere. Do you hear me? Okay. Melvina says, what if he doesn't pass for another 40 years after you? Guess what? I still be waiting. As 40 years later, I'ma still have that plot waiting right here for you. I'm gonna be in heaven patting his little side of the bench. I'm gonna be on Golden Gate Boulevard sitting on the bench, me and Eve, because we friends now, and I'm gonna just be patting it. I'm gonna say, baby, baby. He gonna be at the game, be like, baby, baby. I kept it warm for you, and that's that on that. Okay, how you know what I mean? How about that? Okay, so yes, okay. Yes, rescue. Okay, we're gonna be rescue. Sharon says you ain't right. I'm telling my truth. Mommy says, cause trust the plot ain't going nowhere. When I say on Christmas, it's gonna be the sweetest. It's gonna be the sweetest gift ever. I'm gonna be like, I got us too, just in case 2020 is out here acting crazy. But I want you to know, right here beside me is where you'll be till death. It won't even be till death do us part. It'll be till death get you right over here beside me. Can't move on with nobody else. How about that? And don't put her over here by me. If she go, this is so petty. But don't put her over here by me. Send her back where she came from, because it's only room for two of us over here. Okay. Jillian says, Sarah, can PT weigh in, please, on that? PT is in agreement. I feel it in the spirit realm. He's on a call right now, probably ushering people into something else. But right now, I'm telling you right now, I believe that he's on the same page. Dear says, I'm just trying to be on Sarah level petty. Y'all think I'm playing. I feel something on that. Okay, so anywho, listen. Sometimes it be till death do us part. And sometimes we be in trouble. Okay. And makes it till death get you right beside me till death. I'm changing wedding vows out here. Yo, Shanice, honestly, truly, I'm changing people's wedding vows out here till death, till death gets you right over here beside me. Change it, change it. Okay. Um, okay, Sherelle says, PT about to get off that call. Well, let me hurry up and get through these stories. Y'all, okay, so Christina Anstead, she's got this show on HGTV. And I really felt people were okay. So she recently announced that she's going through a divorce. This is her second divorce. And she put up on Instagram this post, and she says, I never thought I would have one divorce, let alone two. I never thought I would have two baby daddies. But sometimes life throws us curveballs, she wrote. And instead of getting stuck in these setbacks, I choose to look at these challenges as opportunities to grow. So while some may judge me and throw around rumors about me, most of you support me. And that says a lot about this world and where we are headed. She says, I'm messy, I'm real, and I'm working on healing. I'm surrounded by extremely powerful women who help me cope, build me, and push me to better. Let me tell you why I love this. Okay, so, people are like, oh, she got divorced. It's her second divorce. And then people was dragging, right? So, but I love this because, like, as a woman who's been divorced, I felt like to own your truth, to own the messiness of your life can sometimes be challenging, but it's also like this is my truth. Like I've been married once before. This is my second marriage. I have 3 children by 3 different fathers. It doesn't necessarily feel like a highlight reel when you're telling your story, but it is your truth. And I feel like sometimes for those of us who don't have those like cookie cutter white picket fence stories, that we can feel so much shame, especially if people around us or people within our community or circle of influence are exposed to our truth. But she's walking out this journey and determining who she is and what next looks like for her. And I felt like it was really vulnerable for her to share that in the way that she's seeing it. For her to say like to have two baby daddies, like that let me know that she's looking at what her story looks like on paper. And sometimes when we look at what our story looks like on paper, like it can make us feel like my life is a mess, my life is a shame. Like right now, like maybe on social media or maybe people who just read my biography would be like, oh yeah, she's got a good story. But when you look at it on paper to say like, hey, I got 3 kids by 3 different men, I've been married twice, like it does have this level of shame connected to it, or it at least has the potential to have shame connected to it. But I feel like the more that we're able to share our stories, no matter how messy they are, the more that we're able to help other women realize, like, hey, this may not be your goal, but if you have found yourself here in life, you can pick up the pieces, grow, and change from that. So I wanted to rescue her. I think the marriage was quote unquote short. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to drag nobody, but I heard it was a little short, but short and learning and growing is something that happens to all of us. Debbie says papers on only true until that's some people are saying they can't hear me. I can't tell. Jalen says rescue. This is her testimony. Justice says half of them people in them comments probably wasn't even married or divorced before, and they talking trash. Halima says rescue. She's honestly sharing and humble. She's sharing and that's powerful. Rescue. Come on now. Rescue. Stephanie says rescue. Breacher Carter says rescue because we don't know what really happened between her and her ex-husbands. Agreed. Kiara says rescue her. She's owning her truth. Man, and your truth is the hardest thing to own. And until you get to a place where you own your truth, you're going to live always auctioning your truth. That's a word. That's a word. Until you get to a space where you can own your truth, you're going to constantly be auctioning your truth. And by auctioning your truth, I mean waiting for someone who comes around with the highest bid to come in and accept you and embrace you. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why I ended up in toxic friendships, toxic relationships, toxic opportunities in general, is that my truth was up for sale because I didn't know how to embrace it. I wanted someone else to come along to take ownership of it and help me to embrace who I was. And when I came to a place where I'm like, this is my messy truth. And at the time I was a single mother. Like I'm a single mother. I've gone through a divorce. I had my child at an early age. I dropped out of school. I waitressed at a strip club. Like I just put my truth literally out there because it was my truth. And I was like, I'm tired of running from it. I'm tired of pretending like it doesn't exist. This is my opportunity to own my truth. And she did that. And I thought that that was dope. Nick says rescue. She gave love another try. Jennifer says, whew, that's a whole word. Mika Love says, yes, sis, you are preaching this thing. Kiara says that was a great setup. S. Perry says, until you get to a space where you can own your truth, you will always be auctioning your truth. SJR bar. Ruthie says, is it snack time already? For real though. So can we rescue? Sounds like we're going to rescue her. Rescue. Kia says, so good. Sonia says, I never comment, but preach this. Hey, Sonia, thank you for commenting. She says, but preach this, Sarah. For real. So if you're out here and you're listening and you're like, man, my story looks a little bit of a mess on paper too, and it's hard for me to hear my own truth. Here's some tips I want to give you before I move to the next story. Sometimes we end up saying things like, like, how do I move past what happened to me? You need to recite your story to yourself. A lot of times we have a testimony, but the testimony stays silent, right? In Revelation 12, it talks about we overcame by the word of our testimony. It's us literally speaking the word of what happened to us. And so to give your story a voice. And it doesn't mean that you have to put it on social media. It doesn't mean that you need to like declare it from the mountaintops. But the first thing you need to do is be able to say it to yourself instead of trying to ignore that part of you, right? So, I had to be comfortable saying, like, I got pregnant at 13 years old. I had my son at 14, and I had to say it until I didn't cringe. And I had to say it until it didn't hurt. And I had to say it until the shame lifted up off of me. And I had to say it until I was able to embrace that truth. And so to recite your story in your head, but when you recite your story, look at yourself with love, look at yourself with compassion to understand that you were, innocent, that your story may be different from mine. So I'm just going to use different analogies that maybe you were innocent, maybe you were broken, maybe you were afraid, maybe you were insecure. And out of that insecurity, X, Y, and Z happened to you. Out of that innocence, X, Y, and Z person took advantage of you, right? So you got to recite your story until you can embrace it as your truth, because the day will come when someone comes along and they're going to ask you questions, whether it's a friend, a spouse, or something like the Woman Evolved Network and sisterhood, and you're going to want to be able to say it without shame and rejection. So, how about that? XOCC said that's a word. Tamika says speak on SJR for real. So yes, we're gonna rescue Christina because life be out here doing its thing to all of us, and we understand it's not what we dream of. It's not necessarily the life we have in mind when we're little girls, but it is our truth. And when we embrace our truth, we can grow. So much love to you, Christina, from the Woman Evolved delegation. Y'all, my next story, I told you I had about 18 of them. Okay. This story is out of Mexico, but it is a story that blessed my socks off. Do you understand what I'm saying? Valentina Betrez Guadarrama. Oh, but she rolled them R's on y'all, okay? Of Mexico stepped away in the middle of a Zoom meeting. Okay, a politician in Mexico has been accused of using a photograph to fake her attendance during a Zoom meeting. Mexico City Congresswoman Valentina Betrez Guadarrama was caught on camera sneaking out of the meeting after using a photo of herself to pretend like she was still there. Let me tell you something. You're watching online so you can see this screen grab from her. I love it. I love to see it. First of all, y'all in these Zoom meetings are out of control. You're out of control with these Zoom meetings. Everything is a Zoom meeting. What happened to conference calls? What happened to emails? You wasn't seeing my face. It's people who was never seeing my face at all want to do Zoom meetings now. And you know what you're going to get one day? A picture of me and not me. A picture of me looking frozen like my internet dropped. But it ain't going to be the internet dropped. It's going to be me not playing. I'm going to say, can you still hear me? If you can still hear me, that's going to be it. But what you're not going to do is me. I'm tired of these Zoom meetings for everything. Zoom me for the things where you need to see me. If you don't need to see me, then Zoom yourself off of my laptop and call me on my cell phone. I'm rescuing her. I don't really care what the delegation say about this one. We're going to gas up the jet and go and get her, because this right here, I understand it. Okay. I understand it. How about that? Okay. The Saints are laughing. Kiara says, sis was creative. That's what I need to do on some of the meetings I have. Let me tell you why hers is so creative. And if you haven't seen this, I need you to go ahead and go on the YouTube to see the actual video. Let me tell you why it was great, because she didn't use one of them digital background things. It looks like she was frozen in the camera. I love to see it. I love to see a clever woman. Okay. Quadir says she was tired. Okay. Chantel says, yes, off my laptop. Lillian says, I got a cute Zoom picture. Y'all seen it at the conference. Let me tell you, I'm here for the Zoom pictures. I think the Zoom pictures are great, and I want to rescue her. Anika says, as long as the school kids don't copy her. Speaking of y'all school kids, I didn't load that one up, did I? Did I put the story of the lady getting the school kids? Excuse me, Shanice. Excuse me. No, I didn't. Y'all, it's a video of a lady going off on parents and the school board with these kids cutting up. And let me tell you something. We gonna rescue her. Let me tell y'all something. She said that y'all need to stop getting on Zoom with blunts. She told me, she said that. Did you watch the video? That lady's blessed. She said, stop getting on the Zoom with your sleep clothes on. Stop getting on the Zoom with your bonnets on. Stop being in the background making faces like this is the news and we out on your street covering some story about a parade. Let me tell you something. It's a video of a lady going off on the parents in the Zoom, and I love it. Okay. Malika says, yes, she did. Sarah says, I seen that video. She was serious. When I tell you she's tired of it, Tamika says, yes, she went in. Makia says, not blunts. I said the same thing. I said, not blunt. And she said blunts. I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I seen. She said, stop getting on them Zooms with them blunts. Mariah said, who said that? OMG. It's some, she's like a teacher or she works for, I didn't add the story, so I don't have all of my facts, but let me tell you what I'm telling you right now. My girl said that y'all up here cutting up on the virtual school. Patricia says, yes, she told the truth. If you're a teacher, I don't know what you're going through right now, but I can imagine it's a mess. Cassandra says that lady was everything. She was everything. Okay. How about that? Kiara said she definitely said blunts. She said blunts. I said, oh Lord, the Saints is on the Zooms with the marijuana with the Mary Jane. Lord Jesus, don't do it. But she said y'all need to smarten up. And I'm with her. You need to smarten up. Okay, so we're rescuing this politician from Mexico because she's goals. She's out here know better but not do better. She's out here inspiring us all when it comes to Zoom. Tanya Davis says she is a teacher and she said that she has never seen a blunt that big. No, she did say something about the size of them. Miranda says it was a school board meeting. She was honest. She said, "I mean big." Man, I was supposed to rescue her last week, but I forgot to put it in the thing, and then I forgot to do it this week too. But how about that? All right. So how about that? Okay, the next story. I gotta, cause I'm not all day with y'all every day. Here's the next story, and this is real life. Okay. So, the co chief executive of Wells Fargo said in a June 18th statement obtained by Reuters that while it may sound like an excuse, the unfortunate reality is that there is a very limited pool of Black talent to recruit from. This was in response to some people mentioning the lack of diversity at the company. There have been at least two Black employees who said his comments didn't sit right with them, but have decided to keep their identities anonymous. Several Black senior executives at multiple companies are shocked and puzzled at the CEO's claim that there's not enough Black talent. A former mortgage industry executive who's on the boards of Comcast says there is an amazing amount of Black talent out there. If people say they can't find the talent, they either aren't looking hard enough or don't want to find it. Um, Here's the thing. Lamaya says no rescue. Danielle says rescue. And Tier says, I know you don't want to rescue him, Sarah. Can I say this? When I first read the headline, all I can think about is like the reality that the disparities within the Black community and the education system and our ability to be admitted into certain schools and to go through certain programs has had to have had a limited effect on the pool of Black people compared to our white counterparts. counterparts. And so I think that what he should have said instead is that because of him feeling like there's a limited pool in comparison to our white counterparts, is that they are planning on funding scholarships or they are planning on donating money into school districts, because the reality is that there is a disparity when compared to those people who are able to excel at a different rate and pace than we are. And I just felt like there was an additional comment that he left out. But Victoria says, sis, stop reading. It's a nope. Kiara says nope. Winetta says nope. Kia says no rescue. This is Wells Fargo's second time putting us down. Tennessee says nope, nope, nope. Ashley Tate, first of all, I love you. She said roses are red, violets are blue. I say we shouldn't rescue delegation. How about you? Crystal says throw a floaty. He isn't completely wrong, but how he said it was horrible. I totally like I understand why we are upset. And I understand why he shouldn't have said it. But I also understand that we need some people who are going to take ownership for this limited pool and not use that as an excuse to not hire the type of diversity that we need to see. Let's see. Angelique says banking is not a lucrative industry. Black women are the most degreed. No excuses, no rescue. Hold on, let me explain my thing. Tennessee says it's disappointing that he only apologized when he got called out. No, no, no. No. Okay. Bree says he shouldn't have said anything and did work to find the talent. He said what he meant. Amen. Diane says he is canceled. Janae says they hire who they are looking for, period. Amen. Amen. Okay. Miss Moody says, can we please let him swim? He probably can swim. Kim Handy says, did they check the graduating class for people? Yeah, the problem with the YouTube live streaming is that the system Anita over the weekend. Like the system is just not set up for there to be a huge amount of support for our talented, educated members of people of color communities so that we can at least compete. I was reading even about the wage disparity, not just from white men to black women, but white men to white women, and then from white women into black women. And it's just like the disparity is so glaring in every single area, sector, and industry that it seems like this would apply anywhere. But I think the reality, instead of pointing it out, is that we really need to be motivate our employees to promote in these different sectors. So I don't know. Lamaya says they don't even let the candidates interview in most cases. Kia says he got money. He can buy his own jet. Well, that settles that. That's that on that. How about that? How about that on that? All right. Okay. Somebody said no ads today. Now, you know I gotta add. I'm moving on because the delegation told hell no. Let me see. Somebody sent me a picture. Oh, am I gonna do that one or I'm gonna move to the next one? Let me just throw this out real quick. I'm not rescuing, but I'll let you all decide. Somebody says Kraft is adding pumpkin spice to their macaroni and cheese. I don't know who's in charge of Kraft macaroni and cheese. And I don't know why this is even something that we're considering, but y'all need to leave macaroni and cheese alone. Macaroni and cheese has not been doing anything but minding their business. And all of a sudden, people have been trying to add things to it and do things to it. And I just want to know why we would put pumpkin spice in macaroni and cheese. Can someone help me? Who in their rabbit mind said, you know what this macaroni and cheese need? A little bit of pumpkin spice. I want you all to, I don't even know why I put this story in here. Maybe someone in the delegation can help us rescue them because I'm not here for it. I think pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese needs to drown. I think it needs to go back from hell where it came from. Brianna says, who's responsible? I need a name. I just want to talk, I promise. Ashley says, watch it becomes a hit like those chicken crocs. That's what I'm saying. If this becomes a hit, well, it might as well because 2020 is already doing whatever it wants to do. But come on now. Positivity says keep pumpkin spice in the lattes. There's nothing wrong with putting your pumpkin spice in a drink. But why are we, Justice says skip this story. Moving on. All right, next story. I'll skip it because I should skip it because it ain't no need to us for us to even talk about it because I know y'all not gonna rescue it. How about that? But if y'all try it and it's delicious, tell us. But if it ain't, don't let this break us up. Don't let this pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese come in between us the way Lawry's and eggs did. Okay, this is a new season. This is a new year. And God doesn't want us to be separated over pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese. How about that? Okay. Um, so okay, this is my last rescue Eve. I told you I had about 18 stories. 18 of them. Okay. This rescue Eve is coming to us from the MTA workers of New York. You're watching this online and you're like, what is this photo? It looks like a refrigerator. It looks like a microwave back in the corner. It looks like some type of futon and table. Y'all can't figure out what's going on. Let me explain it to you. Investigators with New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority said a group of employees were found to have maintained an illegal man cave in a storage room beneath the subway tracks. Oh my. The office of the MTA Inspector General said investigators acting on an anonymous tip discovered a storage room at Grand Central Terminal containing a man cave outfitted with a futon, a TV with a streaming device, a refrigerator, a microwave, exercise equipment, air conditioning, and more. Whose husband? Whose brother? Whose uncle? Who who has decided that y'all need a man cave at the office? Exercise equipment? Y'all lifting weights on your break? Bicep curls and chest press? Do y'all want to rescue them though? Because do y'all wish y'all had a man cave? I'm working from home and I wish I had a man cave underground right here at my very office at home. It's not right. I know it's not right. But is it possible for us if you work somewhere where having a break means sitting up with coworkers you don't like? And there was an empty storage room and they said on the 13th when everybody's shift is over, everybody bring one thing for the storage room. And little by little, you got you an Apple TV in there, you got you a microwave in there. Do y'all think that we could rescue? How about that? No or yes? Michaela says they needed a break from the public. Rescue them. How about that? Regina says rescue. Anika says that is creative. Chantel says, you know what? I'm not mad. Diva says, I will rescue as a fellow New Yorker. And Nicole says, my job allows this. I can rescue. Mariah says, it's hard to find a private space in this city. It's smart. I thought this was pretty clever. Now, they gonna need to be rescued because I'm pretty sure they done lost their job with no pay as a result of it. Three MTA employees, a wireman, a carpenter, and an electrician have been suspended without pay in connection with the investigation. I don't think this is that bad. Can they get their job back? First of all, to work for the MTA in New York, the most one of the most populated cities. And I'm sorry, New Yorkers, y'all's attitude don't always be all the way tight, and they just need somewhere. And here it's one right here. The attitude is not always hot in that tri-state area. Y'all be busy and got stuff to do and don't have patience and stuff. And if you want to sit down for a minute and just like pump a little iron and just like warm up your pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese in the microwave, who are we? Maybe this means that they actually should create better spaces for them to have breaks. But until then, I feel like it's ingenuitive. How about that? Breeley says they took matters in their own hands. MTA takes 50, 11 years to build anything, let alone a break room. Jaleesa says, y'all, why they lost their jobs? I mean, they're suspended for now, but I mean, I just feel like we should rescue them. Christy Edwards says, save. I could have been a lot worse. Let's rescue. Rochelle says rescue. Ashley says, oop, talking about the New Yorkers. Hey, Eve, glad you could join us briefly. Eve was here, Eve left. Chrissy says if it should give the company an idea on employee appreciation. Come on. Well, Walea says, who sent this? Oh, I hope I said your name right. I'll be trying. Anyway, she says, "Who sent the anonymous tip?" That's the true question. Because somebody snitching, somebody, you know who it was. Somebody who wasn't invited to come down to the man cave decided to snitch on it. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Just because you didn't get invited, don't ruin the party for everybody else. How about that? Okay, Larry says, "Rescue, please. I'm gonna be in there. Let's rescue." Preacher says, "Rescue for say." I love it. Let me tell you. And when I say this thing was set up, you're listening to the podcast, so you can't see it. But let me tell you, this thing was set up. When I tell you they got them a futon, the TV is mounted because it was a carpenter and electrician. They had this thing together, okay? And I don't mind it. I'm here for it. Good for them. You know, the only thing they needed was one of them little probably electric plates where you could just set things up and get to boiling water and really just make it a thing. You boil you some water for a bath, decide to not go home. The only thing though is, you know what they was probably gonna need for that? Then you gotta go grocery shopping and stuff. That's too much. That was gonna be too much to have all of that. Unless they got a HelloFresh subscription. Because if they would have got a HelloFresh subscription, they would know, like I know, that you get fresh, pre measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door with HelloFresh. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh lets you skip those trips to the grocery store and makes home cooking or man cave cooking fun, easy, and affordable. You already know how I feel about HelloFresh. First of all, I think it's delicious. Secondly, it's got all of the good things that make me feel like I'm actually chefing. And most importantly, they have low calorie, vegetarian, and family friendly recipes. That means literally whatever your diet is, they have a menu that you can accommodate. Every week, you can go in there and select what you want to have delivered for the week. And just by that, it's like reading a menu for a restaurant, only this time you get to put it together yourself and be your own self chef. Okay. You can save time and stress effortlessly. HelloFresh offers contactless delivery to your doorstep for easy home cooking with the family. HelloFresh can help you eat more sustainably. HelloFresh's pre-portioned ingredients mean there's less prep for you and less food waste. It's flexible and fits your lifestyle. You can sign up for HelloFresh, but decide, you know what, I need to pause this. I need to skip it next week. I'm going to be out of town. And you can just go online and select which weeks you want to have your delivery and which weeks you don't. Keep your fridge stocked by adding extra proteins or sides like garlic bread to your weekly order, especially since we are lunch ladies in this season. Okay. So I want you guys to check out HelloFresh. It is one of my favorite meal preps. It is my actual favorite, not one of my favorite meal prepping kits, and my family loves it. And for a limited time only, you get $80 off, including free shipping on your first box. All you have to do is go to HelloFresh.com/80evolve and use code 80evolve. Once again, you're going to get $80 off, including free shipping on your first box. Additional restrictions apply. Please visit HelloFresh.com for more details. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. How about that? How about that? You know what I'm saying? I plan this out strategically because I have to know how I'm going to segue. Y'all think? How about that? Natalie says that commercial was hella fresh. And I am undone. How about that? Okay, so moving on. Okay. It is time for Hail Mary. First of all, I want to give a big ups to Joe Montana. I don't know if you guys saw this story. In this case, we're going to call it Hail Joseph. Joe Montana confronted an alleged kidnapper of his grandchild that showed up at his Malibu home. I love this because it said that a little, let me tell you, it says LASD. Hold on, shed a little bit more. Hold on, I got to read it. Okay, how about this? How about that? Okay, boom. Joe Montana and his wife had the scare of their life Saturday when an intruder came inside the house and snatched one of their grandchildren right out of a woman's arms. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ Sports at 5 p.m. Saturday, a 39-year-old woman entered the home where Joe and Jennifer Montana were staying. She got in through an unlocked door. The intruder saw a woman holding a baby. It's unclear who was holding the infant. Anyway, our law enforcement enforcement sources say the intruder walked away with Montana's grandchild to another part of the house where she was confronted by Joe and Jennifer. They wrestled the baby away from the woman. The intruder then ran out of the house. Okay, so technically, this Hail Mary's for both of them. But the part that stood out to my mind says they wrestled the baby away from the woman, and then Jennifer ended up with the baby in her hands. That means that Joe put them hands on her. And let me tell you something, you can't run up on nobody's kids, grandkids, none of that, and not get thrown about a bit. Okay. And I love this because sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get that because grandpa came on through. Panama's finest said grandpa come through grandpa. K Hunty says crazy people. People be out here. Okay. Jaleesa says people going that's she's talking about the Kraft macaroni and cheese. Sherelle Stanley says Joe pull up. When I say pulled up, that said a scuffle ensued and then his wife had the baby. Let me tell you something. Joe said, don't get it twisted. Not today and not tonight. Okay. So I like that. I like that a lot. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to do until you're placed into a situation, but I enjoyed that he went on and snatched this baby up. My next Hail Mary is going to go to the juror, the grand juror, who said, not on my watch, not in my lifetime, and not on today. Okay. The Kentucky Attorney General says he will comply with the judge's order to release grand jury audio after a grand juror has requested that everything be released and that they be allowed to speak publicly because they said not today. And let me tell you something, I'm here for it because something in my spirit wasn't right about this situation. And I know it hasn't been right in a lot of people's spirit, but this idea that we did what we were supposed to do and this is the conclusion we draw, it didn't sit right with me. And I was wondering to myself, I feel a word coming. I was wondering to myself, is this the it? Is this it? Like we didn't have the grand jury thing and these are the only charges, but there's always another level. I want somebody to hear me clearly. Just when you think it's over, there's always another level. And let me tell you, whoever you are, grand juror, I hope you're a part of the delegation. Let me tell you, I thank you for saying not today, not on my watch. Unleash the records. We want you all to see what we saw. And then I want to speak publicly about how they tried to play me. And I love to see it. And let me tell you something. I can't wait to continue to watch this unfold because we do want some justice. It can't just be, oh well. It can't just be it was an accident. And we're not just gonna take anything. You're gonna have to lay everything out for us to see it. And I love it. Juror, whoever you are, we're this isn't even the Rescue Eve part, but I want to send you a private jet for Hail Mary where you want to go. It's up to you. It's a vacation because I appreciate you doing what needs to be done. Okay. Alicia says the grand juror needs recognition. Sure does. Okay. Jessica says always another level. It's not over. How about that? Monique says amen, amen, amen. Verlisa says God is in the exposing business. Nicole says period. Here for this. Let me tell you, for real, because I was heavy. Because I was like, man, like this is just it. Like we tried, it didn't work, and we just have to accept what happened, and it just doesn't sit right. I watched the New York Times Hulu documentary. I understand everything about what played a role into what happened that night, and yet something just wasn't adding up for me. And until my calculator is adding up, I'm going to want more information and more details. And I appreciate this for saying, sis, I got your back because here's the details and here are the information as I receive them. The big issue here is that if the prosecutor or the attorney general didn't propose that they get charged for manslaughter, homicide, or some of these other charges, and only suggested that they charge them based off of this wanton endangerment, it means they never even had the opportunity to look at the case from the idea of was a manslaughter, homicide, murder committed here, and if so, should charges be pressed. That's what we're thinking may have happened with this grand jury thing, but we won't know for sure until we get the information. And let me tell you something, Miss, I dropped out of college is gonna be trying to read that stuff like Law and Order SVU. I may have not gone to college, but I know people who have degrees, who have law degrees, and someone's going to explain this to me until I can figure out what's happening here. Okay. That's what I want to know about that. How about that on that? Okay. Um, Siska Beauty says, wait, so it isn't over. There's another leg coming. is what I'm saying. It's not all the way over yet because when these papers come out, we gonna figure out what's what in real life. Okay. So how about this? Um, so yes, that I wanted to Hail Mary that juror. Let me see what else I got here. Mm, I'm not gonna do that one. Ooh, 18. I told you got a smooth 18 stories. Okay, let me move to this pregnant woman. Y'all, I read this story. Let me just read the headline to you. A pregnant woman jumps into water to rescue husband from shark attack in Florida. A man who suffered a severe shark bite while snorkeling in Florida with his family was pulled to safety by his pregnant wife who leaped into the water to rescue him. Sis, I don't know where you are. I don't even know if you're listening. But I want you to know, not my man. If I won't let a trick have him, a shark can't have him either. What I look like letting a shark eat my man while I sit up here? Huh? That's if a trick can't, a shark can't. And until we see tricks like sharks and sharks like tricks, we may never jump into the water. But I said what I said on today. Sis, I am so proud of you. Lord says he's a good husband. Oh, let's not even get into what would have happened to some of the saints if they wasn't who you that's why you need to be who you're supposed to be in the kingdom, because you don't know when a shark might come and your wife had to be the one that jump in there to help. And if you ain't, you got to, I'm not saying she would let you, but you don't know for sure. And that's why you got to live right, because holiness is still right. Because some of the saints might have been and just said, tried to shoot a shark away from the boat, shoo 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 shoo, but not my man. You need to have a man who you want to jump in the water with pregnant when the shark try to eat him. I like her. She said, "Not when I shared this story with my husband, and I knew he wasn't going to, because he's all safety and protection. He would be like, "I'll be fine. Your safety is most important." Nah, bruh, not my man, not my man. Till death do us part. It ain't here yet. It ain't going down like this. I'm not about to sit back and watch no shark eat you for lunch. How about that? Jillian says, SR, if I ain't letting a trick have him, a shark can't nobody have him but me, is what I'm saying. Shark, trick, nobody. Okay. Lakeisha says, not shoo the shark away. My God, too much. All right. Shanice gave me the eye. But this is what I'm saying. Shoe fly shoe. Shoe fly shoe wasn't gonna do it, and my girl got in there. So I'm gonna give you a Hail Mary. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you listening. You're probably not even paying any attention to me. But let me tell you something. Mad props. Okay. Mad props for you. Okay. Jalen says this has to be the best podcast in a long time. Is it? Am I cutting up today? Ashley says this is getting better and better. Oh, that means I'm cutting up. whenever, whenever the delegation is really enjoying the podcast, let me pull it in because I don't know. Let me come back. Okay, QR says Sarah Eve is on the way back. All right. Okay. I want to give a Hail Mary to the pregnant woman who was able to jump into the water to rescue her husband. I really admire the bravery and courage that you displayed in making sure that your husband was brought to safety. And because of that, you are Hail Mary for us today. We here at the delegation, we acknowledge that women like you may not come a dime a dozen, but we thank God that they're here and in the atmosphere. And may we all strive to become like them in some way or another. How about that? Doesn't feel natural. Doesn't feel good. I tried it on, didn't like it. I think I can do it better when I stand up, but I'm sitting down, so I can't do it sitting down. So this is what you got today. All right. How about that? um, one more story. You're rolling your eyes, and I can see it over my laptop. Two more stories, and I'll shut up and go home. Okay, already at home. Already at home. I'm already at home. Okay. Um, I want to give a Hail Joseph to Charles Feeney. Charles Feeney is 89 years old and he just accomplished his lifetime goal of giving away his massive fortune. He wanted to live the rest of his life broke. Okay. Feeney gave 3.7, he's worth $8 billion. Okay. And he has found a way to give away $8 billion in anonymous donations through his foundation, Atlantic Philanthropies. Charles, I think this is amazing that you gave away your to charities and organizations that are going to benefit from this wealth that you amassed. Just on behalf of the delegation, I just want you to know, if you end up looking for any more money that you want to give away, Ashley Jones says he could have donated to me. I figured there were a few people in the delegation who said, sir, he said it was difficult too to give it away anonymously. Evidently, it's hard to give money away for free, especially large amounts of money, because people start thinking. I think there was someone, he gave it to a community or a college. Yes, to Cornell University, and he had to convince the board of trustees that it wasn't mafia money. If for any reason you have any more money that you want to give away, I just want you to know that the delegation says that you could anonymously give them millions or billions of dollars, and they won't ask any questions. I don't even know if you're still looking for anything. If you run into some sock money, I don't know what sock money is like when you got $8 billion. If you run into some sock money that ends up being millions of dollars, I just want you to know that the delegation says that we are here to serve you in any capacity. Okay. How about that? Destiny Williams says, now what's his email? She trying to see something. She trying to see something. Xenia says, where was he looking? That's a great question. That's it. Now he's those duty free shops that you see in the airports. He's the man who founded those things. He gave $870 million to human rights and social change campaigns. Okay, $3.7 billion to education. $76 million to the Affordable Care Act, $62 million in grants to end the death penalty in the United States. They went to worthy causes. They went to worthy causes. All we said, first of all, hail Joseph unto you. Secondly, if you're ever looking again, I just know somebody. I just know somebody who knows somebody. Okay. Bree Lee says zero questions, even less than Google. Are you a robot? We don't care. When I say Shanti Shantique. Shantique says he can send it to my PayPal account. And PayPal is a proud sponsor of the Woman Evolve podcast. And you can send it right on if you need to. Okay. How about that? All right. So last thing, right? Because I said only two more. And then I'm getting off here because once again, not all day, every day with y'all. Okay. How about that? There's a story that really touched my heart. And I'm going to give Hail Mary to Joanne Sayer and Donna Cienko. Okay. They talked with the Today Show about their 88-year-long friendship. Okay. For 88 years, they've been friends literally from birth even unto now. Okay. They say it's important to work at friendship, be thoughtful of one another, and be there for each other. And their story is so beautiful. And I just wanted to share it because honestly, I was explaining to my husband about friendship and women and how challenging it can be. And I told him that I feel like the best friend relationship is as romanticized as happily ever after when it comes to women, that they make it seem like you're going to get this best friend and you're going to have them forever, BFF, right? And if you guys have seen my posts on Instagram before, I've talked about friendship and how it can have highs and lows and ups and downs. And to see that this friendship has lasted for 88 years, I thought it was really inspiring. And I also wanted to just talk about friendship with women and how challenging it can be. And if you guys see this video, you should check it out because I think there's some hope here. Charlotte Brooks says that's awesome and very rare. Rose says 88 years, how sweet. 88 years of friendship. Can you imagine how many highs and lows? I mean, in the video, they talked about there being moments where, like, that one was in a grade above, I think, and how she had friends that were different than her at a time, and they had to survive that season. You have to survive so many seasons in order to maintain friendship. And I am learning more and more that as much as friendship is about accepting who someone is, it's also like giving them space to grow. It's very much so like a marriage, right? So in a marriage, it kind of has to be like, if you never changed at all, I would love you if you didn't make any pivots, with the knowledge that you are going to make some pivots, and I may not know in what pivots you may take, but I'm willing to at least ride this thing out with you. And I love it. I thought it was amazing. Friendship can be very wounding when not done well. And I think there's a lot of people who have experienced it not done well, and that can be hard. Luana says, my oldest friendship is 41 years and I'm 49. We had our children together. We roommated together before. I was just with her on Sunday. That's amazing. Let's see. Ashley says, SJR, you trying to be my friend? We can get a good 60 years, but I'm serious. Ashley, what you talking about? Like, what you talking about? Aisha says, that strength from God for sure. Giving people room and space to grow. Kim Johnson said, yes, ma'am, very wounding, especially when you think you have a friend that you're going to like be doing life with together and then things end up changing. Um, and that can be hard because there's a space in your life that you've created for them. So Divine says, people don't know how to be loyal these days. Halima says, that's sweet. My longest friendship is 27 years. Sheila Anderson says, you can't call everybody your friend. That's special. 88 years. 88 years is, but they were anointed to be friends. That's what I think ultimately beautiful friendships come down to, are like anointed to be friends. Like, I'm anointed to serve your life in every season. One of the things I've been challenged with in navigating friendships is that sometimes I needed friendships that basically, like I talked about earlier, that would help me to embrace my truth, right? My truth was for sale, and that friendship was a validation of maybe something I was struggling with. But as I grew and became more comfortable with my own truth and my own story, then friendships really became about being anointed for us to walk out life with each other, where I can be there for you and you can be there for me, and we can grow with one another without being envious of either's growth. And I think that that is the sweet spot for friendships. But until we get to that space, we kind of have a lot of ups and downs and trauma. I hate the way the Real Housewives kind of depicts friendship, because them friendships on the Real Housewives they be a struggle. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about the real deal friendship. So how about that? Friendship is challenging, but it can work. And that's 88 years of friendship that I just wanted to acknowledge. I love it so much. Um, if you are struggling with feelings of loss, even if it's not necessarily grief, but perhaps a friendship has shifted and changed, and you're thinking to yourself, like, I don't want to be dramatic, but that is like a wound that hasn't healed properly, and you're thinking to yourself, what can I do in order to kind of bring some healing there? I encourage you to seek out BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online counseling community that allows you to connect with licensed professionals. BetterHelp online counseling is there for you. You can get help on your own time and at your own pace. You can schedule secure video or phone sessions, plus chat and text with your therapist. Licensed professionals are on standby to help you with literally anything that may come up, whether it's family wounds, friendship wounds, trauma, stress, anger, self esteem, whatever. Maybe that auctioning your truth kind of stood out to you, and you realize some of the decisions that you have made as it relates to relationships and friendships are kind of rooted in maybe not feeling so worthy. Well, I want to challenge you to explore healing through BetterHelp. Best of all, my favorite thing, and I say this in every ad, is that there's financial aid available to those who qualify. So if for any reason you're thinking to yourself, I want to try out therapy, but I just think it's too expensive, you don't know for sure until you actually sign up and give it a try. And secondly, if you need it, financial aid is available. BetterHelp is affordable. It's safe right now. You don't have to get up and go into an office and try out a new person. You can do it literally right from your phone. You can text, you can do online videos right there with your therapist, chat anytime. And for your first month, you can get 10% off with the discount code EVOLVE. So, Woman Evolve with Sarah Jakes Roberts listeners get 10% off your first month with discount code EVOLVE. code EVOLVE. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/evolve. Simply fill out a questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/evolve. Now, it's advice time in the sanctuary. Okay. So, and I can't see. Y'all need to get glasses. I'm gonna go see the doctor. I don't know if it's looking at these screens all the time, but I can't see anything. I done wrote these advice questions, and my computer is so far away from me. Hold on, Saints. Hold on, Saints. There. No, you put it in there. Okay. Amen. Okay. The first question says, "Good afternoon, Sarah. Just a shot in the dark. Do you know any single brilliant brothers in New York? I'm the single mother of a beautiful, sweet, precious boy, and I have been unsuccessful in finding a God-fearing black man who wants something meaningful. I heard my baby praying for a daddy. It was heartbreaking. So, wanted to run this by you. Um, Thank you for sending me this question. I know exactly what it feels like to be a single mother and wanting your child to have a male influence that can help guide them and raise them. I also want to let you know that me wanting to get married just so that my child could have a father is part of the reason why I ended up in a relationship that ultimately ended in divorce. Because at the end of the day, I was so busy trying to create a family unit that I didn't realize that if I got healed, that I could help my son navigate his own wounds and we could be a family unit on our own. As a former single mom, I want you to know that before I got married to my husband now, that I had really come to a place where I was comfortable with family being between me and my two children. I think that before you get to a place where you should, start just trying to find a brother to come in and complete the family, that you should really start talking to your son about, the absence of his father, how he's interpreting that and translating it in his mind. And also through, mentorship programs or even from afar to start showing him different role models of men that he can kind of copy and even with the absence of his father. It's really hard being a single mom, especially when you're constantly feel like I don't have the additional support that I need to make this family work. But it is not impossible. And there have been incredible single mothers who raised incredible husbands, who raised incredible children by themselves. My husband was raised by a single mother, and he's been an incredible husband and father to me and my children. So I think to really underscore to your son that just because his father's in his life doesn't mean that he's lacking, right? Of course, it's not ideal and it's not what we have in mind, but it doesn't mean that he's lacking in his identity. And what he doesn't get from a father, he may be able to get from a cousin or an uncle or from books or from watching different people who you deem suitable role models in his life. And so I don't, to answer your first question, I don't know any single brilliant brothers in New York except for them MTA workers. I don't know if they meant, nope, stay focused. All right. But what I do want to say is what I said is at the end of the day, you've got to teach your son how to embrace his life as it is right now. And I think that comes from you getting to a place where you can embrace it as well and to ask him, like, baby, I heard you praying for a father. Like, how does that make you feel? I don't know where his dad is, whether he's absent. One of the things that I've been able to say is like, sometimes we're ready and sometimes we aren't. And sometimes when we aren't ready, we don't make the best decisions. And that's why, your dad may not be able to be in your life the way that he wants to. But that doesn't mean that you can't continue to grow and become incredible, but to really open up a space where he can talk about those things, those pain, those hurts, and even consider therapy. He's never too young. Honestly, they talk about like trauma occurring at 3 and 4 years old. The absence of a father, if it's coming to a place where he's even addressing it in therapy, in prayer, that means that there's wound there for him. And it's never too early to start getting him some support and making sure that he's processing that properly. So that's my advice. But I want to see what the delegation says. K Honey says, I told God to hide me, and my husband will have to ask God for me. I've seen a quote that's kind of similar to that, and I think that's great. Sherelle says, I see why she asked this question. She must have saw all the pictures of Pastor Sarah and Pastor PT. Yeah. Um, yeah, I want to make sure the delegations chiming in as well. But I definitely think that there's something to making sure that you're joining your son in the processing of this narrative and not just trying to fix it. Because one thing I know for sure is like, even if you get into a relationship, like that's assuming that the relationship is perfectly going to fall into this like father son dynamic that we have in mind, when the reality is blending a family takes work as well. And so I think the more that you can give him tools to process things that are happening in his life, the better he will be able to receive different things that occur. I think the worst thing that can happen is that he ends up being suppressed in his feelings. The Culture of Psalms says really great advice. Sarah Jakes Roberts releases being prepared for what it means to enter to a new phase of covering is also a thing indeed. Um, Brianna Hammond says, Sarah, get the Saints of Man, Jakes Roberts. After we finish, we're going to do a Woman Dissolve Money Challenge in 2021. And then we're going to have some type of matchmaking or something. I don't know. How about Shanice, I have not seen your head pop up all podcasts. And all of a sudden it went up there. Okay. Renee says, wait, sis, seek God's face and he will bring the right man for you and your son. It's a lot, says wanting your children to have fathers a valid need, but being prepared for a husband is also very different. But I'm telling you, as a single, like I've been a single mom twice, right? And the first time that the first part of my journey where I spent my life as a single mom before getting married at all, like that's all I wanted. Is I felt like if my child had a father, then we would be a family, not realizing that it takes much more than just having someone in the household to be a family, or recognizing what it takes in order to really build a life with someone. In order to build a life with someone, you've got to think this, you have to have the same definition of what building a life looks like. It's just like building a house, right? Like I can say, hey, I want to build you a house, right? But you're going to have a certain location in mind. You're going to have a certain house in mind. You're going to have a certain idea of where the master bedroom should be and where the playroom or whatever should be. But the same thing applies when you're building a life with someone. Everyone has a different definition of what it means to build a life. And when you're talking about creating a relationship for your child, well, that creating a relationship that your child will benefit and ultimately blossom from, you got to make sure that you guys want to build this right kind of life. Right now, for sure, you know what you want for your life. Hopefully, that's to be healthy, to be whole, to create an emotional, stable, and spiritually stable environment for your child. And you want to bring that child into that awareness of what you're building and help them to navigate that normal as well before introducing someone else into that picture. I would think for me, one of the things that I did as a single mom is I wanted to come to a place where I felt completely whole and complete, and where I felt like my children felt completely whole and complete in their journey. And from there, when I was dating my husband now, like I wanted to make sure that when I brought him into the picture, that it would continue to build onto the stability that I had already established, certainly not take away from it. So, okay. Delana Maxwell says, how about the men evolve to get these men together? PT, we need you. Okay. We need you. All right. Next question. Big sis, I'm hoping somehow this reaches you. I have found myself struggling for years with my worth. I think maybe it started with the lack of love. You know, a part of me felt like I did this question before. Hmm. When I cut and pasted in here. But anyway, I'm going to read it anyway. Big sis, I'm hoping somehow this reaches you. I have found myself struggling for years with my worth. I think maybe it started from the lack of love I got from my father when he was alive, or the way he treated me. Sometimes the saints have typos in these DMs, and so I just got to read them the way I get them. Okay. She goes on, still, I love him. I think he just didn't know how to be the father I needed because he'd never seen it done. Anyway, I think I'm beautiful, but I allow the way people treat me to dictate the way I feel about myself. For example, I go all out when connected to someone. When I'm actually interested in a man, I give freely my time, energy, and nice gestures because doing for people makes me happy. I find that once they feel they have me, the roles switch, and now it seems like I'm chasing the person I'm dating. I don't feel appreciated, and it seems like the less he gives emotionally or practically, the more I overdo, as if I'm making up his lack for me by doing more to make him happy. Things switched after the death of one of his best friends, but I'm going through things as well. I don't think that's a reason to mistreat me or not to give me what I deserve. Can you please pray for me? Maybe even give me some advice? Okay, so, sis, this is not uncommon. I think that you mentioned the lack of love that you receive from your father and how you feel like you've come to a place where you've embraced that. I think the fact that you brought it up makes me feel like there may be something there that you want to dig into a little bit. But I also want you to know, in this process of like, I just like to give for people, this is a part of my reality. Like, this is not uncommon. I know a lot of women who are such givers, such lovers, that they want to bless people. When you're with me, you get help. When you're with me, you get support. I'll wake you up in the morning. I'll make sure that you get checked on throughout the day. Like, I know a lot of women who are like this. I think that what you have to determine when you have a heart like this organically is what type of person is worthy of the receipt of this love. One of the mistakes that we make is that we think that everyone understands and receives love in the way that we do. And because we make that mistake, we end up thinking that everyone understands this sacrifice connected to what we do. You see, you're giving, but giving is a sacrifice, right? And so if someone doesn't see that giving as a worthy sacrifice, then they are going to end up taking advantage of it because they don't necessarily see it as a sacrifice. It can be in your heart to do for people, and it can be in your heart to make people happy, but it can also be a sacrifice in order to make that happen. I'm like that. Like, I will do any and everything for you. I will go completely out of my way, and I will have no problem doing it, and it still costs me to do it. And I think having someone who recognizes the costs associated with what you give helps them to value it more properly. So, I think that some of the things that you should look for when giving of yourself, before giving of yourself, is this the kind of person who's going to recognize the cost connected to what I do? How do you determine that? You may be thinking to yourself, people who understand the cost of sacrifice have sacrificed in their own life. I would look at areas in a person's life when I'm dating them to see, like, what have you sacrificed to accomplish? What have you sacrificed? How do you sacrifice from day to day in order to get to X, Y, and Z? Relationships are about sacrifice. I talked about this in one of my messages. Like, it's reciprocity for sure. I sacrifice here, you sacrifice there. Together, we're able to build. But if you're with someone who has not shown any level of sacrifice, which a lot of times we are, they don't sacrifice to go to work. They don't sacrifice to maybe see their kids. They don't sacrifice when you're dating them. And then we're frustrated because we're with someone who seems very self centered. But the reality is that they never showed any signs of sacrificing in the past. And so you are a person who understands sacrificial love. And I think that's amazing. I think that you're only going to thrive in a relationship when you're with someone who sees your love as sacrificial and honors your sacrifice. Biblically, when we talk about sacrifice wasn't something that you just did randomly, right? You built an altar and created a sacrifice. What type of altar is someone building in order to receive your sacrifice? What type of environment is created? There were things that the priest had to do before entering into the place of sacrifice. They had to disrobe, they had to dress a certain way. Those are all signs that sacrifice has environment connected to it. And so if you're going to be one of those people who sacrifice, then I think that you should consider making sure that you're with someone who has created an environment to receive your sacrifice. Let's see what the delegation says. Okay, so Jaleesa says, be self aware. Are you giving out of the place of needing to feel validated? If so, then that's a red flag. Well, and I think that there's something to that because you mentioned, pretty early on the idea of your father not being in your life and you thinking to yourself that you were okay with that. But, I don't know. Victoria says she's honestly being taken advantage of, damaged. I think there's something to that. If that resonates, I think you should definitely dig into that because there is a part of you that doesn't mind being taken advantage of. And I would want to understand why that exists so that you can make sure you have boundaries before giving yourself away. Mariah says, whoo, what kind of altar is the person building to receive your sacrifice? Man, SJR, that's good for romantic and friendships for sure. Let me tell you something because, like, listen, even when it comes to friendship, like, okay, if I'm going to sacrifice my time to give you advice when it comes to this relationship, and then you're going to turn around and do the same thing over and over and over again, then there does come a point where I'm like, all right, well, you're not really building an altar for the sacrifice of my time in order to walk you through this. So then it doesn't mean you have to cut everything off, but you have to determine what can I sacrifice based on the environment. This is a word. This is a word. You may not be able to handle the fullness of what I can sacrifice in order to be in your life. But that doesn't mean that there's no sacrifice involved at all. I just have to determine what I am willing to sacrifice based on the environment that you have created. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, all right, maybe I can't spend an hour on the phone. Maybe it's 5 minutes on the phone because that's all I can sacrifice based on the environment that you have created. Maybe I can't do any and everything for you the way that I would like to do because you can't handle that in this environment. But what I can do is text you once a week to make sure you're still in this world. How about that? That's the sacrifice that I can offer. How about that? There's something to it. Okay. Jaleesa says she sounds like how I used to be. I still am to an extent, but I'm definitely learning what is worthy of my sacrifice. Okay. How about that? All right. So last question. What was your surrender point in life? I just thought this was an interesting. I know it's quick to the point. I felt like it was something worthy. My surrendering point in life, I was, man, if you've read my book Lost and Found, then you already know about this. That's kind of like my memoir up until I was what, 23 years old. But I talked about being in a toxic relationship. In that relationship, the person that I was with, we were walking through this pregnancy that he was having with someone else. And I was having all types of dark, negative, depressing thoughts. And, I started wishing some really hateful things on the person who was expecting. And I just didn't like who I was. Like, my surrendering point was when I came to this point where I was like, I don't like who I am anymore. I don't like how I'm crazy. I don't like how I don't mind police being called on me. Like, I just didn't like who I had become. And I realized now that it was like, years of suppressed emotions and trauma and pain that I hadn't really processed that had made me an enemy to my own soul, right? I think so often when we have enemies in our own life, it's a reflection of an enemy that we haven't confronted within us. But I didn't know that then, I know it now. And so it wasn't until I realized that I did not like who I was and that I had control and the ability to surrender and sacrifice and change that I began to see my life change. And it wasn't like everything clicked all at once. I just started making some conscious decisions like about who I was going to be. And in my memoir, I talk about like I started buying baby clothes for this woman who was expecting a child, not because it felt good. It was just such an extreme from where I was that I wanted to start moving in a different direction, right? I needed to move out of where hate, to move out of where fear had placed me. And I started doing that me feel like I don't have to be ashamed of this. I don't have to feel guilty because of this. Like, and it was crazy, okay? Especially all over who I was by doing something that was so different than what I was doing in that moment. And it was through that process that I started like swinging the pendulum until I found the center for me. And it was from that place of center that I found the strength to leave, that I found the strength to embrace my own truth. But I just and I wanted to be someone better. And in the process, becoming someone surrendered, and I asked God to make me better. And when I asked God to make me better, He led me to a better version of myself. And now here, sitting up podcast cutting up. Natasha says, I need to read this book. Your girl was cutting up. Terrell says, someone I know is reading this book now. It's helping her. I love that. Armani Battleships Lost and Found is such a good book. For those of you who are interested, that's what the book is called. It's called Lost and Found, and it is by your girl, Sarah Jakes. And it is because of that book that I don't know, I started connecting with women who I was hoping to help bring them into a different place and space in life. All right. So snack time. It's snack time in the sanctuary. So this is where I am, right? So I'm always like pressing in to figure out what I'm sensing and what I'm learning. And I feel like I am in the process of like establishing a new way of being. Like I mentioned earlier when talking about Woman Dissolve, like I am just coming to a place where I am embracing that, like, I can't continue doing what I was doing as a response to me, like, processing what was happening in 2020 and being emotional and eating all of the snacks and carbs. And that I am having to really come to a place where I'm like, not even about necessarily, like, if this doesn't work in 1 week, I'm quitting, but like, what is the type of rhythm? What is the type of lifestyle, right, that I want to create that feels like it is me heading into the best version of myself. And so I've been working on that, and I wrote this down that what I prefer and what I need have been at war, and I'm finally paying the price to be who I need to be. So what I prefer is to eat my carbs and to sit around and not work out and to not feel heavy by getting on the treadmill and feeling out of breath and winded. That is what I prefer. But what I need is to make a change. And I finally come to a place where I'm comfortable paying the price to be who I am supposed to be. And I feel like that's the snack for today is that it feels awkward and uncomfortable and not necessarily organic, right? To come to a place where it's like, I'm gonna keep working out and doing stuff, even though I'm not seeing any change, because at the end of the day, I want to pay the price to be who I know I am supposed to be. And I think that this is so unique because it doesn't feel, I guess, rewarding, right? This is it. I'm working the snack out with you as I work it out in my heart. I think we are wired to have instant gratification, right? If you don't believe me, watch The Social Dilemma. Like instant gratification plays a large role in whether or not we feel successful. And when we don't have that instant gratification, we can often give up on our results or we can give up altogether because the gratification wasn't there immediately. But I am coming to a place where I feel like, yeah, but right is right even if the gratification isn't there. And who I'm supposed to be is who I'm supposed to be, whether anyone sees it or acknowledges it or not. And I think that this is a level of integrity that establishes us in the new normal. And so 2020 has presented us with so many opportunities to have new normals, new ways of being. Some of them have created good habits, some not so healthy habits, but all of them are playing a role in our identity in this moment. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like me and you're stretching for this new normal, but it doesn't feel exactly organic yet, I just want you to know that it's okay to keep stretching towards who you are supposed to be, even if you don't feel comfortable with it yet. Maybe you're going through a breakup and you're used to being with someone, but you know you need to be by yourself and it doesn't feel comfortable. And you're not one of those single people who are like, oh, I love being single. I love spending time with myself. You're not there yet, right? But there is this in between period between comfort and uncomfort, and it's called stretching, right? And in order for the new normal to become comfortable, we have to endure the pain of the stretch. There's the pain that comes with stretching. I did a stretching class after I worked out the other day. I thought it was going to make me feel good. It felt like an additional workout because stretching isn't always comfortable, but it is the only way that we can get to the place of comfort that we're seeking. And so, whether you're starting a new business, a new role in life, taking on a health challenge, but you're living in that place of the stretch where it feels uncomfortable but necessary, I just want you to know you're not alone. I am there with you. And I am reshaping my mind and I am reshaping my habits. And not just when it comes to my health, I feel like as a business owner, as a visionary, as a wife, as a mother, okay? I am being stretched in every single way. But this stretch is different than the way that 2020 stretched me, right? 2020 stretched me in a way that didn't feel voluntary. Okay. They did not have a permission slip before they just came and stretched me. But I feel in control of this stretch. I feel like I have elected to embark on this journey of stretching in a new way. And because I have signed up for it, when it's time for me to pay the price to do it, I recognize that the goal that I have in mind doesn't happen unless I'm willing to sign up for this stretch. And so I just want you all to know that we're trying new things. We're becoming better versions of ourselves. And in the process, it doesn't feel comfortable. And quite frankly, it doesn't feel organic. But we've finally crossed this space. Well, I finally crossed this space, and I'm going to drag you to this space if you aren't there, where I realized that going back isn't really an option because going back feels inauthentic too. What do you do when what's ahead of you, your goal doesn't feel organic, but what's behind you doesn't feel organic either? You breathe in, you breathe out, and you go deeper into the stretch until what's ahead of you becomes more comfortable than what's behind you. This is your girl, SJR, and I am breathing in, breathing out, and going deeper into this stretch with you. I love you so very much. The Woman Evolved podcast is one of my favorite things on the planet. And I'm going to be back next week. Podcast supposed to be over, and yet here I am still messing around with y'all because you're the homie, okay? Um I'm gonna pray. Tennessee, y'all. I finally started my podcast. I was tired of going in circles. Send us info@womanevolve.com. Let me know what your podcast is. We want to hear it. Okay. Jaleesa says, this is one of those snacks I'm definitely going to be nibbling from for a few days, weeks, months. Heck, this is a non perishable. Man, deeper into this stretch. Okay, let's pray. God, we trust you. We trust you because we can't trust what's behind us and we are unsure of what's ahead of us, but we trust you. And each day you've been giving me my daily bread. You've been giving me just enough to sustain me in every season. And I am so very thankful that I don't have to do it on my own. God, I thank you for every woman, every fella who's listening to today's podcast. Father, bless them in their stretch, whether they have decided to get in this stretch or not. Maybe they're just starting their journey. Maybe they're going to decide after hearing this that they're going to go ahead and dig in, or maybe they're comfortable and they're looking for a new way to stretch themselves. Wherever they are, Father, I know that you can meet them. I know that you can give them vision, wisdom, insight, and clarity because, God, that's just what you do. Help us to recognize that we have the opportunity to grow in every season if we're willing to lean in, dig deeper, and stretch. And so, Father, I thank you that that's exactly what we do here together at the Woman Evolve podcast. We push, we pull, and we become better than we were before. Bless each and every last one of my sisters. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.